welcome to episode 123 of Rapid Reviews Radio Podcast. And today we have a very special guest that Pete and I are both very excited to bring on the show to have a little chat. So I want to welcome Daniel Lindholm to the show.
Oh, hello. Thank you, everybody, for having me on.
I'll hold for applause. Wow. But if you're listening to the show, you know who Daniel Lindholm is, but we're still going to delve into that. I am your co-host, Kiley Wilde, and I'm joined by my ever-present co-host, Pete Beckett.
Hello.
And Pete, okay, so fair warning to our audience, it is 11 o'clock at night. So for us, for Daniel, what time is it for you over there, Daniel?
It's 7 a.m.
7 a.m. in Japan.
Nice.
Wow. Okay, so I'm a little bit scatterbrained, but that's okay.
I'm probably going to be as well, but
Say,
we'll go with it.
That's our usual way of being. But I'm going to turn this over to Pete, who's going to do a little bit more of a thorough introduction of Daniel and really get into the meat of the subject because it is fascinating and I think it's very important. I think it's an important thing that needs to be told and talked about. So Pete, over to you.
Okay, so as you can see, obviously, and here we are speaking to Daniel. He's worked on quite a few games in a composer sort of aspect, really. I would assume as well, arrangements as well.
Yeah, that's correct.
And do you want to tell everyone kind of what games you've worked on?
Well, I started off, my first AAA game was Pro Evolution Soccer, a playmaker for Nintendo Wii from 2009. And I thought, hey, it was just like doing all these kind of pop style music because they didn't have license and stuff back then. So I was more like a copy musician back then. So I did a lot of like Prodigy, David Holmes, German techno and Ibiza pop and stuff like that.
Nice.
And then I was doing that for about 3 years, and I was on credits as a virtual orchestrator for Revolution Soccer 2010 2012. And then suddenly the zombie craze started to happen. But before I even got there, I got to write music for a cute game called Super Monkey Ball 3D. And directly behind it, we got Yakuza Dead Souls. Yes, such a weird extreme to go for the game company Sega, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, here's this cutie thing, and then murder. So they wanted the industrial metal stuff.
Wow.
So yeah.
Yeah, that's my kind of
really
jam.
fun.
That's really cool.
Yeah. And all of a sudden now, the zombie craze and Walking Dead, just kept going on TV, and I got so many zombie games. I thought I was going to be typecasted as a zombie musician, right? So right behind that, I got to work on Lollipop Chainsaw with Suda 51 and Grasshopper Manufacturer.
Amazing.
And then almost in parallel, I believe, the development of Resident Evil 6 took place.
Wow.
And so, yeah, a lot of zombies in a period of time there.
Yeah.
And then 2012 happened and the release got out there, and there was a sudden shift in console and marketing and how to fix a DLC kind of stuff, So there was like a dead period, and I was only writing music for pachinko slot machines that actually killed a few franchises that people were looking forward to, like
Silent Hill,
yeah,
and Castlevania. I was like, oh my God, why?
Did you work on the Metal Gear Solid 3 one by any chance?
Yeah, I mean, that was kind of the thing that broke my heart was that, I was like, oh, you're going to be working on Silent Hill. I was like, yes, it's a pachinko machine.
What?
No.
We all had the same reaction, don't worry, when they announced that.
Yeah.
And it's funny that Jim Sterling just made a meme out of that thing right away. It's like, yeah, you got it right, man. You got it right. Absolutely right. It was like, man, how did it go so wrong? I have no idea. But money. And the domestic market in
Mhm.
Japan generates so much money, yes, in the pachinko parlors alone.
Right.
And these companies, not only Konami but Sammy, I did also Samurai Spirit, Samurai Showdown Pachinko as well.
Right. Oh wow.
But
Yeah.
they spend a lot of money to get good music into the game. But the sad thing is, no one will ever hear because of the bouncing balls hitting the tray. All of metal.
Right. Because it's very loud. Yeah.
It's very loud, but
Mhm.
they do have those little headphone ports. But I never see
Oh
anyone
my
use those.
gosh,
So
no.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever seen
Wow.
anyone use a
it's
headphone port
ridiculous.
on
Yeah.
it. No. I mean, pachinko machines aren't really a thing over here, so we haven't really seen them as much,
Yeah.
but I have seen pictures enough, so.
Oh my goodness.
Anyway, from
Yeah.
there, so yeah, worked on Resident Evil 6, so from there, where did you go on to?
So during that dry season with the pachinko stuff, it took me maybe about another, like 4 years before I saw that Street Fighter 5 has been launched. It was a bit rocky, and I always thought, they already released the game. I'm too late, But I had no idea they was going to do like seasons and adding more and more content. So I was brought on board at the end of 2016. I get a message from a guy who used to work for an agency.
Yeah.
And in the beginning, it was not really anything about Street Fighter 5 in general. It was like he asked me if I could teach him about orchestration in the virtual world. So I went to this studio and I told him exactly what I do if I was going to write orchestral music on a computer. And it was like a session for about 3 hours. And I didn't think much about that. And then I went on holiday and I came back in January from Bali. Bali, a beautiful place, man.
I've always wanted to go there. Oh, gosh.
Yeah, me too.
I went there. I go there every year because going from Japan to Bali is so inexpensive. It's
very
just
nice.
perfect.
Oh, I bet. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So anyway, I arrived back, and then suddenly in February, I get a message from this guy and say, "Hey, actually, I get a phone call and say, hey, do you know about Street Fighter 5?" I was like, oh, yeah. I've been a fan since Street Fighter 2. So I'm really looking forward to something. Yeah, we might have something for you. Do you have any hip-hop music lying around?
Ooh,
I said,
nice.
no, but give me 3 hours and I have something cooked up for you. All right, here's a reference track. Yep.
Yeah, just talking about hip hop, I already know which character you're talking about. So, but carry on.
Yeah. Yeah, and of course, since we're now in season 2, one of the first characters released was Ed, the boxer. Yep. But the funny thing was that it all started off as a reference track from Eminem, 8 Mile. Was it Lose Yourself? I believe?
Yeah.
But the thing is that I was so close to it, and okay, just change it up a little bit so we don't get sued by Marshall Mathers.
Right.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. And then I was thinking, right, but that hip hop track that Eminem uses is a very one key, one dynamic thing. There's nothing really happening. It's just the same thing going on. So that's when I thought, when I got the view of the character, he was just wearing his white hoodie and his black sweatpants and his red shoes, right?
Yeah.
And I was like, I didn't have any other graphics. I never saw his uniform. I didn't know he's going to go that way. So me adding the orchestral elements and have it all swell and be more dynamic as a hip-hop track, I never heard hip-hop like that before. And I thought, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to bring an orchestra that's helping
amazing.
it.
That's
and
amazing.
The thing was also this is still hip-hop, but we don't have any rap. And I was fearing for the question, hey, can you rap too? I was like, me, a Swedish homeboy from the countryside, you want me to rap? But no, they actually had a good writer in the form of a guy called Caleb Combs, who lives here or used to live in Tokyo. He's back in New York now.
Okay.
So he got to write the lyrics and come up with the phrasing, all that stuff. And the thing, we never met. We were never in the same room.
Wow.
And he just recorded it on distance. And the thing is, I didn't read the lyrics. I said, I'm just going to place his stamps into my recording session. And I was thinking for myself, if I hear the word fist in this lyrics, I'm gonna get really happy. Press space, and it goes on, and I swing this fist back in your direction. It's like, yes, he read my mind, you know. And then I knew we had a really good start hit right
synergy
there.
And all that. Yeah, absolutely.
So that was my first encounter with Street Fighter 5. And I thought, okay, that's it. I'm done. I got my name in the credits, and I'm not coming back.
That's excellent.
So I had a question anyway about how you do the music for characters. So obviously you have established characters with Street Fighter, like your classics that you do remixes for. But for a new character, like, what do you have like to go on? Do you just have like an image, or do you know their moveset so you can sort of design music around their movement or something?
I mean, that's a funny story. Actually, a funny, interesting thing. I get like a spreadsheet. I get a few pictures inside a spreadsheet that might reveal a color scheme of the character. Yeah. But it's not a modeled version. It's just a sketch, like those terribly hand-drawn cutscene pictures.
Yeah.
But I also get a line sheet to see, this is what the character might say during a fight or stuff like that. So it kind of gets me into the character's mindset, if that makes any sense. And then I get some pre-alpha footage of their animation walking around and stuff like that. But it's not the final one. So even after I'm done with the music, they already touched up. For example, if we're talking about Cody, he had his little sway and he did punch and stuff like that. But I had no idea later that he would punch and then flick his wrist a little bit. That was never.
When I saw that, I was so blown away by it because I'm a huge Cody fan. So when he was announced for Street Fighter 5, I was jazzed, and then I saw all his animations, and I was like, "Oh, this is just perfect."
Yeah, he was stellar, but I was stupid enough before we even going to talk about Cody later on, I guess. But I went out on Reddit before I even started writing the theme. And man, I'm a huge Cody fan too, you know.
Yeah.
Nice.
But I just want to make sure that the fans get what they want.
Right.
And Capcom gets what they want, and I try to find a balance between that. And and that was a challenge. But when I finally saw the release on Combo Breaker, actually, I love to watch a reaction video. And when I saw the pig mass hall of people bouncing their heads up and down, you know, like, okay, I got you now.
Yeah.
So that was like,
yeah, I mean, it's definitely got me with that. That trailer and the music just blew me away.
Wow.
A huge thing left my shoulders to like, okay. But the music supervisor did a great job because I also felt like there was something more I could have done with Cody. But he said, no, this is fine. This is what we're gonna have. So no worries. Like, enjoy the show. Okay. Right? So, yeah, a great guy. The music supervisor. Yeah.
I think it really shows, and I mean, I know most people kind of take this for granted, but it really does show just how much music influences the characterization of a character. And I think that it would be very boring if you were playing Street Fighter or Resident Evil and there was no music. It would just be weird sound effects, ambient sound effects.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it was so weird to hear, like, just a few weeks ago when they had the Oscars that they're gonna delete the music category, and I was like, you guys are crazy.
Yeah.
No.
I do not understand that at all. Of course, I'm.
It's part of the experience.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And Pete does this too, but I listen to soundtracks, music and game soundtracks all the time. You know, when I'm working and stuff like that. You know, it's very. You know, there's a lot of emotion in there and things like that can be left out of the story.
I've been listening through to the Street Fighter 5 soundtrack and a few others like in the last couple of days for research for the episode, of course.
Research, even though he's listening to it all the time.
So I guess obviously, like after Ed, like you probably got a call back from Capcom to work on another character, right?
Yeah, I mean, that was a big surprise. Usually when it comes to fighting games and composers, if you look at the album, like one person only get one thing to do, right? So I was not expecting the call. And But somehow Capcom knows that I have a wide range of music skills, and next character up was Menat, the fortune teller.
Yes.
And now the funny thing is, it was like a kind of like the first culture clash that happened, and they said, "Hey, do you have any trance music?" I was like, "Yeah, I do. I have 3 tracks right here. I send them in right away." But for them, the definition of trance was very different from us Westerners.
Right.
Yeah, and the thing
really
about the
think of that,
Japanese,
actually.
yeah, it's weird. But it seems like in Japan, sometimes they take an English word and then they flip it to mean something completely different. And that's kind of a popular thing for them to do. But of course, if I would ask you, what is the definition of trance music for you guys?
Just
what do you imagine?
Just that spacey electro, just where you just chill to it. I love trance. With the beats.
How I would describe it as well.
The beats in the back, but just easy going chill. Yeah.
Right, a 4 on the floor, boom, boom, boom. Some TB303,
yes.
And that stuff, right? And that's what I did, And they said, no, this is not what we're looking for. Right. Here's the video, what we want. And they clicked me onto a YouTube video. And then the tag underneath the video said, post-German rock. Right. Okay, I see. Right. If they wrote, like, progressive metal with psychedelic influences, I would probably have gotten this one from the get-go. But yeah.
Well, that's right. My language, prog rock, prog metal. It's just my wheelhouse in terms of music outside of games.
Craft work or whatever.
So I did a 180 and I flipped the project, and the next 3 hours they had a progressive metal song with a little bit of Steve Vai and John Petrucci, stuff in there, and probably one of my. I mean, I never thought Menat would be such a big character or be something significant. So because the music's just one key and it's the same bass loop over and over, and tried to make that interesting was a challenge in itself.
Right.
But once I put the guitar down and build up that space, the sonic space with the pad, and stuff, we felt like she was taking off flying, and I was like, that's a good feeling. But I have no idea if this is going to be a hit or not. So I was actually, she was probably lowest on my list of all the characters when I looked at her from a standpoint of commercialism. Right. And again, I did not see all the animation.
Right.
I did see her walk cycle, wicked cool.
Her moveset is just really cool anyway. Like, she just looks cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there were a lot of other stuff that were never implemented when I got like her follow-throughs or when she missed a punch or whatever. Those animations wasn't there either. So I still had to read about her character traits in that document, and I thought, she's just a teenage girl. She just want to make things right in the world, but she messes up. She can't read the future that well, which is funny.
Right. I like that.
So she's a little bit of a klutz, but she's a funny klutz. I like that. Yeah. And for her to be from Egypt too, I think that's kind of an interesting challenge. And why they went with that kind of music, still makes me wonder, because this could easily be a person from India. So there's this kind of cultural crossover kind of happened there.
Yeah.
So being the fact in the lore, obviously, that Menat is like in some way like trained by Rose. Like, did you take any influence from Rose's theme at all for her music?
Actually, no. I had no idea she was that. That was something that was revealed later when I got to write the character's mini story, and I find the silhouette of Rose. I was like, okay, wait, that is, and that's when they wanted me to have this organ thing going on in that cutscene where she's talking to Rose. So that is the only homage to that character, for me at least. Yeah.
Fair enough.
But otherwise, she's a completely brand new character, and with her own quirks, but her identity as this exploring person. Yeah, I thought that was really interesting. Even though the music doesn't really explore that much because it's just one key. You know,
Yeah.
when I think exploration, I want to go to different
Right.
modulations and we'll get around until the character comes back or the song goes around again. But yeah, it was a challenge, but it was fun. But I had no idea she was going to be so big.
Okay.
So that's, yeah.
With Street Fighter 5 soundtrack, actually, there's like various different composers that worked on it. Like Zach Zinger, I think, was one of them, and I can't pronounce any of the other names. Obviously, pronunciation of Japanese names are terrible. But did you collaborate with any of the others at all, or did you primarily just work solo, basically?
I worked solo all the time, all the way through. So I'm a multi-instrumentalist. I play like 8 instruments, and
wow.
to put it all to the test. And I think it's the character after Menat that really felt like this is me, this is my home, and that was Seku.
Right.
And it's probably my favorite I've ever written for. And I'm a jazz cat. I'm a saxophone player from the beginning.
Nice.
And really see him. I mean, that was kind of funny though, because I started off with 2 different versions of his theme, which I actually have on my YouTube channel. And Capcom said, no, the first one, it's pretty cool. But for me, I also felt like, it sounds too general. It still sounds like we heard this kind of music before.
Yeah.
So that's when they said, hey, can you do another thing, a little bit more disco-like thing? And I was like, can you add in the raid opening scene from Strider somewhere in the song? It would be great.
Wow.
Nice.
Wait, you said Strider? Okay, I'm getting more excited now.
Damn it, stole one of my questions. That was going to be what I was going to ask about Strider.
Yeah. So I mean, so do this kind of a cool stairway with the brass layering each other in. Like that was like I got to do my big band chops, so to speak. So that was cool. But still, that song still sound more like Do the Hustle with a woo, like it felt a bit clownish. So then I decided, okay, maybe I should not go for a straight genre per se. So let's merge genres, and then that's when we get to fusion music, right? So the last song became fusion, and that's where I also nailed the voice of the character, and I was like, there was something we couldn't place him. I know he's Japanese. I know he's an old man. And then I remember an old saying I hear from Japanese people all the time about my music. They say it's very wabi-sabi.
Oh, yes. I love that phrase.
And for people who don't know wabi-sabi, it's basically when you take old traditions and you make them new again in a new context, in a new way. So that's when, okay, I never heard a funk fusion band and a shakuhachi. And I'm like, that's the perfect fusion of new and old. And let's merge them together. And suddenly we have Seku's theme with all the bells and whistles that the character entails in his clothing, his wavy hair kind of, that's a wind. That's the Japanese flute. Represents his hair in this case. So that's how I ended up with that.
So with his with Zeku, did you see obviously that he was going to have the change mechanic with the fact that he goes between old and new, older and younger? Sorry.
Yeah, but I didn't get it first, because I never got to see him do that change in action. So all I had was his old man stance. And again, they did not implement all those really cool showing off moves that he does after a punch or a well-placed kick, So I just tried to concentrate on his bopping, standby animation, and then write the music from there. I think that kind of tells me the tempo and everything I need to know about the character. Sure, even thought Capcom give me like, we want, for Ed rap, for Menat, now progressive metal as I would call it. And for him, that was like they wanted disco, but I said, let's do a fusion of funk and traditional Japanese music, and that's how we got there. So sometimes,
Well,
go ahead.
I was just going to say, do you think that the pieces that you compose, do you think that they have an influence on the later characterizations?
I actually have no idea, but when I did Resident Evil 6, and I did something called I think it was Survivors mode and something else, and that music has been carried over to a lot of other games in new arrangements and new toppings, like dubstep versions. It's like, hey, they're still using my stems, but they're remixing in a cool way. So like, that's awesome,
That's pretty cool, yeah.
Whenever I hear people doing a new take on my songs, I feel incredibly honored. So it's a fun feeling to see it, and I get a special thanks credits in the end there. So
that's cool.
That's always appreciated.
Yeah, absolutely. Pete, did you have a question? Because I cut you off.
No, not at all. I just wanted to. Well, I guess we'll move on to the next protocol, which is another character from Street Fighter. Which I guess. Which one would be next? Would it be Cody?
I believe Sakura would be the first character for season 3.
She was. It was Sakura Blanca, then I think it was Cody.
That is correct. Yes.
Okay, so sure. Let's talk about Sakura's theme for a little bit, because I mean, Sakura is an iconic character, obviously, like one of the most popular Street Fighter characters. I think actually topped #1, didn't she, on recent lists?
As a return character, yes, she's definitely someone that everybody's looking forward to. But when I read about her character arc, that she's kind of coming. Well, I'm not going to say never, but because remember, we're speculating on some stuff here now. So I'm putting a disclaimer right now.
Yeah, speculation.
We don't go through this shit again. Yeah. Sorry.
That's
fine.
Stay tuned, listeners, because that will all be explained here in a bit. But yes.
So for me, they said, or to a certain extent, but this character is now on her, like, leaving her school and getting into the adult world of getting a job and all that stuff. So for them, it was very important that we gave her some kind of a goodbye for that. But here's a strange thing, though, because after Street Fighter 5, Street Fighter 3 takes place, and Makoto takes her place, right? Yeah. So in that timeline, I would say she's not in the next game, which is Street Fighter 3.
Right.
Yeah.
And then in Street Fighter 6, who knows?
Yes.
Right?
Yeah,
so that's how I look. Yeah, the timeline of Street Fighter is so messed up.
It's very confusing.
Yeah, I mean, so it's like Street Fighter 1 happens, 1, 2, and nobody recognizes it.
Yeah.
Then it's Alpha, then it's Street Fighter 2, then Street Fighter 4, 5, 3, and then 6. So,
well, 6, mate, we don't know yet. Let's wait and see.
Well, they already revealed the logo, so it's in development.
Logo. Oh, goodness, that logo.
And,
I speculated it was probably the logo it sort of feels like, like an app notification, so it's sort of feeling like they're going to go live service again on this one.
That's been Pete's kind of theory. His speculation.
Yeah. But I did see, I think Capcom did a release of their new engine, and they just showed like these models of Luke and Ryu standing there, and it was actually pretty neat. So it's like, I mean, I actually like the style.
Yeah,
I like the look of it, but I'm the sort of person that just likes to see it in engine, sort of in action, really, because I mean, we always know that CG traders can be quite deceptive at times, so I would rather see it in play,
Well, that's why I'd never trust watching like smartphone ads. For
gosh, yes.
Smartphone, like no, that never gonna look like that. But for Street Fighter in general, I have been pleasantly surprised how good it looks for each alteration of the game.
Oh, yeah.
Of course, #4 for me was probably the most cartoony ones of the 3D fighters I've ever seen, with the sepia or the drawings of the brush strokes and stuff like that. I thought
that they used, like, it was very defined, and I did like it, but it took a bit of time to grow on me.
Exactly. So, and Street Fighter 5 looks more like getting closer to, well, I'm not saying realistic because they still have cartoonishly large feet.
Right.
You know?
Yeah. That's true.
Well, based on
But
what
the
we've seen now,
shaders and the models, how lights bounce on them, as like if I was looking at the game standing still, it looks like a beautiful panorama playset.
Oh,
I'm just
yeah.
staring at. You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
So that's a cool aesthetic of it. It looks like you're playing with toys right there.
That's actually very I would say that's very
Yeah,
accurate.
of
I like
course.
that. I like that interpretation very much. Yeah. Absolutely.
So the question is what they're gonna do with 6. I have no idea, and trust me, I have no idea.
I would love to know, but
I'm just guarding
so
myself.
Yeah.
That's fair.
Just
Yeah, of
don't
course.
blame you at all.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, Pete, did you want?
So I just wanted to go back to obviously talking about Sakura's theme and then talking about more from there, sort of as we go through our timeline here.
Right. We were talking about the timeline.
A lot of the influence, obviously, of the there would be a lot of influence from her previous themes from like Alpha and Street Fighter 4. So, like you said, it was more sort of like a goodbye, but you can see some sort of optimism in there as well as she transitions into a new life. So, but like, was her theme like on your mind a lot as you were composing that piece of music?
Well, the only thing they gave me was say, hey, okay, here's her theme from Street Fighter Alpha. Can you remake it into a shuffle house tune, something like that? But we'd like to have the piano to be the more compelling elements to show her growth. And I was like, okay. So it's almost like it became more like modern trance music for me because I have those large pads in the background and the piano doing these octave plinky plonks for her melody. There's a certain sadness to it, but as you said, there's a little bit of a hope in there as well. I mean, she's not going to die. I hope not.
I hope
again. So that was more like we have seen this character grow, and we want to get like now. This is what I really like. What Capcom did, they double guarded themselves. So so a character theme. Let's give her a stage theme too, so everybody gets happy. You know, because because everybody loved her Street Fighter 4 rendition with that kind of, for me, a very toyish sounding violin that never sounded real at all. But that's what they did. So they covered all their bases to make the fan base happy. And I'm glad she got her own stage because she is a significant character, and that stage is iconic, especially with a little brother playing on the in the background in her video game.
Yeah, because there's only a few characters that got stage or actual stages, didn't they? So Suzaku Castle for Ryu, Flamenco Tavern for Vega or Bison.
Right.
I think there was a couple of others, but
I guess the initial reaction to Sakura's character theme was very different from the stage theme, and so I always wondered what your main reaction was when you heard that music for the first time.
It was very different. I'm not going to lie. I was unsure at first, but as I heard it in action, whilst you're actually fighting with the character or as against someone, it fits. It really does fit into the game. It's a really nice piece of music to just have whilst you're fighting.
Oh yeah. I agree with that. Yes, absolutely.
It was another one. It grew on me, let's say.
Yeah, because I had no idea that there would be like a lot of people debating about the music there, but then people said, play her story mode, it's gonna make sense, guys. Well, thank you.
Well, it definitely did, but I wasn't the biggest fan of her Street Fighter 4 theme, to be fair, so it definitely felt more like Alpha to me, so that was a nice touch.
And she was the only character I didn't write her like segments in her story, so that was someone else who did that. So I had no idea where her story would go. So, and then there was second character of season 3 was Cody, and yes, that was a biggie for sure. I was nervous.
Oh, wow.
I was scared.
Imagine.
Yeah.
Yeah. So on this one, because full disclosure, like I said, I'm a big
is,
Cody fan.
yeah.
I did listen to all three. I've listened to all three versions of this. So I went and listened to the first demo and the second demo, and then the full version, of course. They're very different, aren't they? Like, you can see like how it comes along across the whole three pieces. Like, and you can see the evolution of the actual piece. So it's really like, I'm glad it got to the point that it did, because I wasn't sure about the first two demos. But
Yeah,
it's awkward because Cody's theme is odd, because it's different in Alpha 3 than it is in Street Fighter 4. Like, they're very, like, few and far, like, very, very different on the scales.
Mm.
So
Yeah.
which side did you go with? Did you go with the Alpha side? Did you go with Street Fighter 4? Or was it both?
Now, that was the funniest thing, though, because as we know, Cody's personality has changed. He started off as a hero, then became a vigilante, then he got arrested, and then he was in this hip hop grime kind of feel.
Yeah.
And I was like,
busting out of prison for no reason.
Yeah, I mean, the key point here for this character was hip hop, and the Capcom was a very exclamation about he needs hip hop music. For me, that is a tempo range between 75 to about 95 BPM.
Yep.
If I go above it, it becomes almost a different genre.
Right.
Okay.
So I was like, so in the first two alterations of the demos that you heard on my channel, I just kept it at a steady 90 BPM pace, I believe. And that's why it feels so slow and still dark. But yeah, it's not right for the character. But it's like, if he had a prison uniform, that music would probably work.
Yeah, probably.
Right.
But he looks very happy, which is a very it's kind of a contrast. It doesn't really work. So then I thought, okay, I'm gonna do something I've never done in game music before. Like, usually we get very strict rules on how to write music that stay in 1 BPM, and that's it. It becomes very easy for us to loop that segment after the intro. So for the first time, I decided I'm gonna have a tempo shift, which I never do, but it seemed like Capcom really liked the idea. So I started a very slow pace at 90 BPM with a count in, and then it bounces up to 105 BPM. And just by that, it lifts the character. It gets that nice little bounce. And and Cody's there. And there was another element. The song I based it on was the arcade attraction mode from the first CPS1 game, so Final Fight.
Yeah.
And even there, you try to imagine what was these instruments. There was only FM synthesizers in there, and a PCM drum sample for the song. So it's like you could imagine music in 1,000 different ways because the FM sound is never really defined. And I think the moment I wanted to make Cody more presidential was that let's bring in the trumpets. He needs a salute, And that's how I came to the climax of the song, I believe. But the bass line is a very interesting bass line because I play it because I also play drums, and my teacher was a drummer and a bass player.
Oh, right.
Yep.
So I thought I was going to honor him by doing one of his bass licks through the song, and that became this thing. So I was really happy about it.
Yeah. The bass line is definitely something I very much appreciated as someone who used to play bass like a very long time ago.
Funk bass, does it slap?
Oh, it slaps.
Sorry, Davey 504.
Kylie, did you have a question you wanted to ask?
No, I mostly am just liking this, listening to the evolution of your, I guess, creative process, and things like that. And probably a silly question, but do you have like an average of different iterations that you go through before you settle on this is the one, or does it just organically happen?
Sometimes I do get home runs, like one song, and that's perfect. Send us the stamps, and you're done, right?
Right.
That has happened to me maybe 2 or 3 times. But But for me, I might send in my first initial idea with Capcom, and then they say, "Okay, we like that part. Can you take that instrument out or something?"
Right.
And or like, can you do these changes? And yes, so maybe 2 or 3 changes, 2 or 3 cents before we get to the final product, and then I deliver. But to write these songs from the scratch, it takes me anything about 2.5, 3 hours to just do a first take of it. So I'm very, very fast.
Absolutely.
And that's what they really like about me. And that's why they keep hiring you back because, oh, okay, you did get the trance thing wrong. Okay, sorry, give me another 2 hours and I have something new for you. And boom, there I am, right?
Yeah.
So, and that's the thing. We will come into this topic later on, but I think if you're going to be a music producer, you need to be very fluid. If you just focus on one thing as a computer game musician, like chip tune music, and that's all you're going to do, then goodbye with all the AAA games, because indie game scene is where that thing still lives, or like very obscure games. But for me, I thought working in the AAA gaming industry, you need to have the chops. You need to get all these pieces together. And I'm so glad I got to write in so many different genres. And Street Fighter is a perfect vehicle for showing off different kinds of music as well.
Yeah.
So, I mean...
sorry.
I mean, even the worst thing, like hip hop is not my main genre. I'm not a hip hop artist.
That's what I wanted to ask you. Yeah, like has working in AAA games industry, has that expanded your horizon of music? Were you more focused on one, or have you always been kind of a broad spectrum musician type of thing, or has this opened your eyes to new genres?
I would say I'm not unfamiliar with the genres, but like starting to deep dive into the genres and break them apart. That's always a process that I do when I get a new song, like what makes this thing tick, you know? And so it's more like a research and development for my part. When there are genres I'm not familiar with, yeah, sure, I would say that is an experience to be had and explore. So yes, in a certain context, it grows my diversity and music creation for sure.
Cool. Has there ever been a genre that you didn't like and then worked in it and then came to appreciate it?
Zombies. Yeah, I mean, that's a really good question, because there are music I absolutely despise, and that's punk rock, because it's so...
Oh, okay.
There went half our audience. Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's so straightforward. Yeah. It's so primitive.
It's not very musical. There's musicality. No. There's not much musicality.
Right. I cannot make that music interesting, right? So for Lollipop Chainsaw, I got to do a little bit of, Viking metal.
Oh,
I
do like Viking metal quite a bit.
I was like, okay, yes, because I'm a Swede. Exactly. Is that what you're thinking? Like, stereotype the Swede guy to make Viking metal, yes. And that was like probably the genre I didn't like so much, because I had to bring in these folk instruments and the flute and stuff and play that. So I actually took some inspiration from some Swedish folk tunes in Lollipop Chainsaw, and I metalized them a little bit. And because it's public domain, I don't need to worry about it from inspirational point of view. So,
perfect.
But yes, so I would say the Viking metal and punk are probably the genres I have no previous engagement with. Even thought I liked progressive metal, but that's more like an artisan metal for me.
Yeah.
So, progressive metal and prog rock anyway are just a journey.
Pete's absolute favorite.
A complete journey. Like, you can just go on a 24-minute complete mind trip with a good prog rock song.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean.
I was just gonna say, did we want to explore further the things
get-
before we
well,
hit
I get-
the
I was
controversy?
gonna say-
Oh, okay.
I was going to say, I guess we can talk about the last few characters that you worked on with Street Fighter 5. We can sort of round them up a little bit. So you
Right.
did.
Now that Pete's had his favorite, Cody. That's his
Honda,
favorite.
Yeah.
and another firm favorite was Lucia as well.
Right.
So,
Yeah, I mean, G. That was probably one of the most craziest music mashups I've ever heard in my entire life.
it's
We
weird,
want
to say
synth
the least.
jazz.
Yeah.
We want synth jazz. Huh? Okay. So, I mean, I had to really delve into G because the character in itself, the concept of the character, was a mystery for me. It was even a mystery for Capcom. They had no idea where he came from, and they even thought he had all these designs and stuff like that. And I get to read his like speech sheet of things that he's saying. Like, I'm not sure if he's good or bad. I'm not sure if it's real or imagined. I have no idea. This is a mystery character of grand proportions, and I cannot really place him anywhere. He doesn't seem like he fits in. It seems like, but then you start to talk about these other big half-god characters that are in Street Fighter. Like, okay, all right, yeah, sure.
Yeah.
But to get with G, that was a very strange pot of influences. And today I just heard the news that Fletch from Depeche Mode has passed away at the age of 60.
Oh,
Oh,
wow.
no.
And I was like, no, because Depeche Mode for me, for G song was a big influence, especially the song Personal Jesus.
Oh, I love that song.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I have that bass kick doing the Personal Jesus pattern. Dum, 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 dum. Like,
Yeah.
and then I need to create this space of mystery around him, so that all these synth pad electronics, that was fun. And then we wanted a jazz part. And the thing is, the first time I did G's theme, it was like pure synth, a jazz part, and then pure synth. But no, they wanted something more like the layers would be 70% electronic and 30% jazz on top of that, and then they would switch. So 70% jazz, 30% electronics, and then back again. So that was kind of a balanced thing to do. And I had to look really deep. Okay, so G says he is the president of the world, or president of Earth.
Yeah.
And when he starts up, he's drawing his power from the ground. I was like, there might be something in there that might tell me what kind of instruments I'm going to use. So I was like, what are the most earthly instruments ever made? I was like, hey, things made of wood. Okay, so let's start with a violin and cellos and clarinet. And I was like, okay, that's interesting take. And then I didn't look closer to the character, but when I saw his tattoos, further down, I was like, oh yeah, tattoos are gold. Brass are kind of gold colored. So let's go with some brass there as well. And that's I came up with my instrument palette for the Dixieland jazz part of the song. And that's where I took it. And plus, why I chose Dixieland, that was not a requirement, but I just think that G is such a crazy person. and I heard the phrase from Fatal Fury 3 by Terry, like, if you're whistling Dixie means you're going crazy. Right? So that's why I chose Dixieland jazz.
Oh, that's
and it's a
Very
genre
good.
I'm kind of familiar with too. Yeah, Dixieland jazz is very fun because everybody can play freely under a given chord progression, and that's what I did basically.
Yeah. So,
But there was one detail that was not even in the story of the character, and this is kind of a little interesting. When a song starts, there's this loud bang in the background.
is that? Okay.
And I just put it in for fun. I had no idea it would create some Street Fighter lore. Like, this is the reminiscence of the Big Bang. He's been part from time. I added some layered mystery to the character that wasn't even there. So for me, I think that's a fun contribution.
Wow, that's the first I've ever heard of that. I'm now gonna go and look into that.
I love that. I absolutely love that.
So next up was E Honda, right?
Lucia was the
Oh,
next
Lucia.
character for the next one.
Yes.
And oh yeah, I forgot. Before we went between season 2 and season 3, with Seku's theme, people thought, "Hey, that sounds like a great Street Fighter Alpha thing. So, would you like to write the Street Fighter Alpha
yes, you
arcade
did,
mode?"
yeah.
Oh,
Like,
right.
sure. And the funny thing is that all the arcade songs that I did are all the sequences in the game, but the opening sequence from Street Fighter Alpha I added some stuff like a bridge that's not in the original with a synth solo. And the result screen, I did a piano solo that I also dedicate to a Swedish keyboard player who passed away in a diving accident. His name is Esbjörn Svensson. And so I put in small Easter eggs in my music for Street Fighter Alpha, because 90s was one of my favorite years for listening to music in the funk genre, so sure. But yes, Lucia. Now, the people wanted a hard-boiled cop story, and well, she's a very funny character indeed. And so we want these 1980s, 1990s action schlock music. Is kind with you, right? Yeah, sure. So I just hacked away on it, and I had a version that's on my channel, which I found is pretty cool because I got a guitar solo in there.
Nice.
And I think I tried to go for very old school drum sounds. Like I imagine the first final fight when you get down the stairs in the first stage and get to the mid stage, and you have that funk music playing in the basement and the flickering lights that almost gave people epilepsy.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was a weird experience. However, so I based maybe the drum beat around that part of Final Fight because I still want to connect her to the original Final Fight lore.
Course,
so I kept the drum beats kind of Final Fight-ish. But the intro, they said, here's a introduction for the game on Super Nintendo. Can you just listen through it and see what you can take from it and implement that? That's going to be Lucia's introduction theme. And the rest, I just wrote out of my ass. I just made it all up.
Best way to do it.
Because, like, I always felt the Street Fighter 3 soundtrack had a very more acoustic sounding thing with a flute and stuff like that. But if I did that, it would start to sound closer to Seku's theme.
Right.
So I tried to stay away from those acoustic instruments and try to be her to be more electronic.
Yeah.
With some like 80s guitars thrown in there for good measure. But yeah, the drums are probably the driving factor I really love about the song.
Yeah, for sure.
And now we come down to the last character that I wrote for, and it's E Honda. And this is a oh boy.
Yeah, that's a big one.
I was huge. I mean, I'll be honest. I was sitting in a Las Vegas hotel about to go to Evo when those were leaked.
Oh.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a big leak.
It was huge, massive, in fact.
Yeah.
But that must have been really disappointing, actually. Like for not only for Capcom, but for yourself to like hear all this music that you spent so much time working on to sort of just be out there for everyone to hear without the hype, really.
Yeah, I mean, E Honda was such a weird proposal for me. I mean, I love the original character. I love the original sound from the bathhouse that was in the original Street Fighter 2 game. But yeah, we haven't seen him for quite a while until now.
Yeah.
But the instructions for me, I was only in charge of the character and his story again. And they said, we want E Honda sound from the perspective of a tourist who's never been to Japan in his entire life. Like, make that image up. Okay, high tech, low life. Okay, you want me to stereotype your own country? You said it. I didn't do it. And that's how we came up with this crazy E Honda theme, and the music supervisor loved it. I was
wow.
Okay, all right.
Nice.
But I was scared to death because that's the thing. Every time I write a game based on Japanese lore or Japanese culture, I try to stay away from all the cliches that has anything to do with samurais or like karate. You hear, I avoid the Asian riff to death. Never gonna happen with me.
Right.
But for them to propose this idea that write the music from a tourist perspective, never been in Japan before. Okay, so that's E Honda's theme, and I get to sing behind it too. So that was kind of
That's awesome.
So.
Yeah, that is a great, I guess, lead-in. I would have never thought of that. I mean, because E Honda is such an iconic original, character, to be given the creative hook of a tourist visiting Japan. I love that. I absolutely love that. And I think you landed it. I think you absolutely landed it. It's really good.
Yeah.
Now, the most impressive thing about Honda was not the main theme. It was all these cutscenes for me when I started writing that. And they said, we want some kind of Japanese spa music. So just a few weeks before that, I went to a Japanese bathhouse just to study a little bit, And then I started writing, but it has parts of E Honda's theme and the French horn that playing in the background with all these serene, beautiful pads in the background. And then I had no idea he was going to get his own stage music. So when the guy who wrote the stage music, like it kind of blends perfectly with the cutscene music. I was so happy to hear that, and I said that should have been Honda's theme for sure. But now you get both. You get the tourist version, and now you get the real thing here. So
that's great.
So,
that's the thing. You just have to remember.
Like we have a lot of fake sushi in Sweden, right?
Oh yeah, we've got fake sushi over here too, in Ireland. Irish sushi is another level. But
that's right.
Pete, did you want to continue on?
Yeah, I think
as we approach.
I guess we will talk about the more recent stuff for sure. So, obviously you may. Some of our viewers may not know that, or listeners may not know, obviously, that you've been in a little bit of a controversy with a few journalists from a few outlets. Can you? I mean, look, we're not here to attack. We just want to hear the story. That's all it is. We want to hear all perspectives. Cover all angles. We're not going to create a hit piece or anything. We just want to hear the story. We were interested, and obviously everyone's entitled to their own opinions about the situation, and everyone deserves a chance to talk, which, by judging by the articles, you haven't had a chance to sort of have your say. So do you want to sort of just explain, first of all, how all this came about, basically, from your perspective, how this all started?
Yeah, I mean, it was a very innocent thing. It was like a Saturday, beautiful day, beautiful weather. And my wife decided she already had made a plan to her to meet a friend, going to IKEA for 7-8 hours and talk with her friends over there. And so I was like, no, I don't have many friends in Japan, but I have some people that come into some of my live streams sometimes. So I thought today might be the time I will actually have the chance to interact with my fans, because I don't really, like, if I write music and do the stream, I rarely look down and answer questions, right? So like now, we can sit down, have a fun little talk, and just hang out like friends,
Yeah.
And that's what it was supposed to be. It was just a hangout. It was not an interview. It was not something. It was just for someone who would like to know a little bit more about the music or stuff like that. And of course, not only were there questions about music, there were a lot of hypotheticals thrown in too. And the question that came up was, which character would you have loved to have written music for if that character did not exist before then? So if you pick anyone, who would you have loved to have written music for?
Yeah.
And for me, that really stumped me, and like, that's a really good question. Let me think a little bit. But that's the part of the stuff that these news reporters cut away. They didn't.
Okay.
They don't write down the question I'm answering to.
Yeah.
They don't write down the lead up to what I'm saying, and they just took that thing that I said, my words. But the funny thing is that they still left in, as far as I know.
Yes.
Now that's a very small that information I have can be incredibly wrong as well, because from last week until today, what I thought I knew about what was happening since my last podcast call I had with another guy, there has been some developments, and now that information is maybe about 80% okay. But there might have been maybe something I've stated there that might, like sometimes when you start thinking back, what did I say? And I see those 1,500 hits on the video,
Right.
I get scared, so that's why I took it down. But still, my stuff is still in print. And then I was like, okay, so I took down the video. Maybe that was stupid, but hey, I still have 8 eyewitnesses in the room. That's the thing. We were only 8 people in the room when these questions took place.
That's ridiculous. I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
I didn't know it was so little people, actually.
Yeah, I'm not a famous guy, and I'm a very easy person to reach. All they had to do was DM me on Twitter and ask me before they published the article, what did you mean by that? That would have been such a simple thing to see. But now, the thing that happened was that I don't know if this was a guy who popped into the room, because you should get a notification when that happened, but no new person had hopped into the room at this point.
Right.
So... But what if there was someone popping in and it was not a real-time update? It would be the equivalent of you guys having a barbecue party and you're standing in the kitchen and someone pops in through the side and did not hear the conversation that started your discussion, right?
Right.
And he would think everything said at this point is fact.
Yeah.
But if you miss the question, that's a huge mistake on the reporter's part, because when I read the article, the question was never stated. Everything I said was completely out of context, and that's so important. And I mean, even very famous scientists, and I mean, I watch these crazy videos of science versus creationist video, and the creationists love to quote my scientists all the time.
Yeah.
And that's where I see myself, maybe I'm not a scientist, but now I know how they feel when you take things.
It's very true. So just to briefly make sure the audience is aware, you were asked, which character you would love to, produce for. Compose music for. It was Fei Long, which is based on Bruce Lee.
Fan favorite character as well.
Very fan favorite, and also Bruce Lee is... Just in case we've got some youngins out there, very, very famous martial artist. Educate yourself if you don't know. But the Bruce Lee family is very protective of the image and all this kind of thing. Which is true of a lot of celebrities who have passed. This is where things get kind of weird.
Sure.
Yeah, Daniel very clearly states this is why we were joking earlier, speculation. I don't know if there's a breakdown in language maybe, but I don't know, because the journalist is American, I believe, that brought this story forward. But
Talk about that in a bit, I guess.
Daniel said something to the effect, and you correct me. You have every opportunity to correct me, which is basically it came down to, well, I don't know that we'll see Fei Long because, the family is very protective. And I guess I'm paraphrasing here. But that's it. It was an innocent throwaway comment that I assume you probably didn't even think after it left your mouth. It was like, okay, on to the next thing.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing, because we all know the controversy that's surrounded about, and there was only one guy who got it correct, and that was an Australian writer for Kotaku, I believe.
Right.
Yeah.
And he said why maybe I said is because of the controversy with the Quentin Tarantino movie Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Yes.
And the thing was that I had this third party who's never mentioned in the article at all as well. And he's a person who's been in the entertainment industry for the last 30 years. And he has some insight into the family. He might be talking to them, but that doesn't mean that I'm close. I never
Right.
spoken to the lead family.
Yeah.
And that's another misconception, because we say that we have maybe 3 or 4 degrees of separation, and at the end it's a famous person, right?
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean you know that person at all, but you know they're in the vicinity. But I don't want to speak to them through proxy.
Right.
Never. So whoever came up with a source or the idea that I was speaking to the Lee family directly, that is a big fat lie.
Yeah.
And that's what I love about the Lee family, because he said everything that this guy has said is bullshit. I was like, yeah, because I was hypothesizing, you know.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
So even when I saw the article on Nintendo Life and whatever, what's the other one? VGM 24/7.
Yeah, that was the big
I
one.
actually, I contacted the guy on VGM 24/7, Connor something, and then there was this guy on Nintendo
Connor
Life,
Makar,
and I asked,
I think it's
something like that. But I asked him, so where the hell does this article come from? You know, like, why did you contact Capcom? Why did you contact Lee family? And they both deny it. So again, so somewhere it must have started somewhere else, and I was like, okay, so journalists, like you guys, I'm so happy that you're reaching out, because I'm just one click away, and that's what he or she should have done.
Right.
To just, hey, can you confirm this? What did you mean when you said that? I would say, yeah, I was just answering a hypothetical question with a hypothetical answer, and just leave it at that. But then
I can say
everybody does. Yeah.
Well, what I
ahead.
can say is exactly our thought process, which is Pete being very, very interested in Capcom and Street Fighter. That story came across him, and we're always looking for stories because of, obviously, the show that we produce. And then he read it, and he's like, something's not right. There's something's not right. No one did their due diligence. And
well,
I
full
was like,
disclosure, we've had problems with VG 24/7 before, not personally, but we've used them as a source before, and most of their reporting seems very inaccurate most of the time.
And we've had some controversial figures on before that are not well loved by gaming journalists. So we've had this kind of experience, and so there's this kind of maybe cynicism, maybe that might be too strong of a word, but instantly Pete's like alarm bells went off. And I was like, yeah, just reach out to him. And Pete's like,
I also watched the video before it obviously went down, so I saw the full context of it. So
Pete's going, I don't understand. Why is this even a controversy? Why is this, and exactly. So he reached out to you, and it speaks. Now we are going to continue on and talk about the fallout and stuff like this. But what I want our listeners to gain from this, which is something Pete and I have said in previous episodes, is gaming journalism is not what it used to be. And it's really becoming very evident that things are becoming clickbait. They want to generate controversy. There was no controversy to this, which you'll hear as we tear this, as we do a teardown. There was no controversy, and yet they made a controversy. And here we are talking, which is great because we do get to talk to Daniel. But yeah. But,
I mean, yeah. So I'm glad you guys saw the original stream that was about 2 hours and 40 minutes long or something like that. Sorry for the bad sound quality.
That's fine.
But yeah, as you saw the context there, it was just a question, and there was a 20-second answer.
That's it.
And it's like, if they just had everything in context, that would be no news.
Right. That's
It was
exactly
just-
it. Mm-hmm.
it shouldn't have even been a news article written about it, let alone 4, 5, 6, however many that covered it.
Yeah, it's now. Yeah, I think we're up to several different outlets because there's also aggregators who just pull in news stories.
Yeah.
And so now Daniel is across all of these news, gaming news channels.
Yeah.
And it was. There's nothing that I know that we're kind of giving our opinion on this, and I do like for our listeners to make their own opinion, but I'm telling you, there was nothing there. I don't know how they came up with a story from this at all.
I mean, for full disclosure, I'll put all the articles in the show notes as well, so you can go and have a look for yourself. Like, obviously, I can't include the video because it's gone, but that's unfortunate. But this podcast will be there in its replacement, I guess.
Daniel.
And now I have 10 witnesses. So
It's true. There you go. But Daniel, I do want to ask you if you can walk us through when did it become apparent to you that
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So now it's been about 2 weeks. I haven't heard a peep from this guy yet who published the article, right? So it happened on the Saturday 2 weeks ago when I was having my little conversation with my fans. And I think that's a kind of a nice thing to do, you know?
Oh, I think it's
because
wonderful.
I really care for the people who has an opportunity to ask me, people who wants to become composers, people who want to be producers, people who want to do games. What should I do? Like, I want to share my toolbox, and I don't believe in the mindset that I should keep everything for myself, because I have to teach a next generation, which I'm doing now in the music studio. I'm teaching the next generations of beat makers or music producers right now. And because I don't have kids of my own, even though I'm married, but we feel like we are so busy. So it's more important for me to share what I have to the people I think deserve it. And that's what I thought this the video would be about, like sharing and giving tips and tricks and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, so when it happened, I got on Wednesday morning, I wake up and I was checking my Facebook. Yeah.
Just quickly, how long after the original video did you start getting the messages then?
Well, that's what he's going into, right?
Yeah, so it was like so you did the video
Wednesday,
on Saturday,
so
and then
like
Wednesday.
4 days later.
Okay, yeah, I was just
4
trying
days
to
later,
get the timeline there. Sorry.
Yeah. So 4 days later, I wake up and I didn't go to YouTube or Twitter. I went to Facebook, and right there was a header. Street Fighter composer Daniel Lindholm says blah blah blah. I was like, what?
Oh wow.
The fuck?
Yeah.
And then I was like, this is stuff that could maybe get me blacklisted.
Right.
And that was my initial reaction, you know.
Absolutely.
And then I went over to Twitter. And then, boom, I have gotten like 300 new followers in a matter of hours. It's like, are they there to really care for me, or are they there just to harass me? I have no idea at this point. And then I get people. Now, the thing I love about Twitter is, like, I don't get DMs that much, except for you guys reached out to me there. But people forget it's a public platform. Everything everybody writes, everybody can see. And then there are people who have this kind of a circular reasoning, like, well, you said this and you said this and you said that. But I said, and I stumped them, like, do you know the question I was answering to? It doesn't matter because you said this and this and that. Like, they have like no clue what a hypothetical is, the stuff like that. So it's like, it was trying to have a conversation with a rock. You know, they're like, they already made up their mind. They're already judging you.
Exactly. Yeah.
But you guys saw the video, and for you, this was nothing.
There's literally nothing there.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It's just the people that were coming at you are obviously just completely ignoring context. Like, context is completely matters, like, in this situation, in any situation, of course. And it was really disappointing to see that. But so yeah, carry on.
So I was like, I think like 3,000 angry people in the mob or something like that. So I was like, the cursing to me in Spanish. I was like, Spanish is not my main language now. Like, I'm just gonna let it stand here, and I'm not gonna translate it or anything. But I know it was pretty bad.
Okay.
Oh god.
And as I think, if everybody knows, I mean, when we were growing up, we were young and stupid, and I definitely know I was an annoying person when I was going through my education at the Swedish Walt Disney Studio for music creation, right?
Wow,
hey, because I was the youngest in the class, because this was not a university. This was like a special program in links with a community college. So I was the youngest there who got in, and I always was looking for confirmation by the elderly people, right? Hey, come here, listen. Like, is it good? Is it good? It dawned on me like 10 years later. Shit, I was annoying.
I get that. I do.
Yeah. So having the ability to do a retro, looking at yourself from the outside and go back, it's like, wow, my behavior was not good back then. I just lucky I got in, and then I always thought, hey, I still need to prove myself. No, if you got into an education, you got there because of something that you're really good at. Don't worry about it. You don't need to look for confirmation. You're there to learn. That's the main thing, right? So I hope that these people someday will come back because their posts are there. And when they figure things out that, well, the VGM article was shit because it's not true, they should come back and apologize. That's what I'm hoping for. But in this day and age, it's just so block rare. Or kill. But that's the thing. I rarely block people. So
I also refuse to block people. No matter what.
Kind of the same unless they've done something to me in real life.
Right. I even took that's even the worst thing. I even took snapshots of it, So I'm still letting the world see before they delete it.
Yeah.
Like I deleted my video, but hey, someone's out there having the entire 2 hours and 40 minutes downloaded on their computer somewhere.
Oh, definitely.
I'm sure it's been archived somewhere.
You are my eyewitnesses as well to this entire event. So I'm really grateful that you guys saw the video, and we all agree that this was nothing. There was no news. But now, so I found out like 1,500 people have seen the video. My first reaction is, I'm going to get blacklisted. But hey, a few days later, I was thinking, okay, so someone contacted Capcom. That is my first big problem.
Right.
Right. So I decided the day, in the afternoon on the very same day, I'm going to write an apology letter to my music supervisor at Capcom.
Right.
And I told him that I'm sorry to bother you, but there's been some strange event, and it's going to sound really bad, but I was actually answering a hypothetical question with an imagined answer. And someone has taken this and blown it out of proportion. And I'm sorry for the inconvenience I've caused you and stuff like that. And I left it at that.
Right.
I hope you can oversee.
Very good, actually, to be fair.
Right. Because usually when I hear people getting blacklisted, you usually hear from an agent, and the agent tell you that now you cannot work for them anymore. So far, the agencies I've been working with have not given me that message yet.
That's good to hear.
Who knows, right?
Yeah.
I mean, there could be an official blacklisting, then they would put it up. We'll never work with Daniel again, right? But they have not said that. They have said we deny any kind of rumors or speculations for what the composer have said, but they know it's me.
Right.
That is the big problem because they're splashing my name on that article.
It's
Sure.
And that's the real. This report has no clue about the consequences it will cause another person.
Right.
And that bothers me a lot because, as you said, he or she didn't do their due diligence, and that can have some really bad consequences. But it seems like the tides are turning. It seems like karma has a strange way of working in my favor now. All of a sudden, I get contacted by the guys who are doing the Teenage Mutant Ninja versus Justice League people. And hey, we would love you to work with us. I was like, huh?
Excellent.
Like, didn't I just ruin my career all of a sudden? But so I was like, okay, but I think a lot of people see that the entire thing is bullshit. And I was like, why do I need to go out and try to explain myself with people who never saw the video, just read the article? For me, that's just wasting time. And I even tried to tell them, again, as I said, what was the question I was answering to? It's not in there.
No, it is not. It is strictly taken. It is one line of yours that is taken and quoted in almost all of these articles, and that's it. There's nothing surrounding it at all.
No lead in, nothing leading up to those comments. So that is a thing. Okay, so blacklisting is my biggest fear. But that's only for one company. But maybe this could spread like wildfire and make me not get to work with any Japanese company, which is kind of common if you were under an NDA. Okay. So I know when I'm under NDA, I don't spill the beans on anything, not even the Street Fighter characters, nothing about Resident Evil. But once the project is released to the world and everybody's seen the character and stuff, now I think we have the opportunity to speak freely or get these hypotheticals and imagine what the world could have been.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
And a character I really would love to see would be Fei Long. But yeah, he's not in a Street Fighter 5. And the question's always been why. And my third-party person said that there could be a reason. I have a theory about that. Okay, let me hear the theory. Well, I heard about this with the Lee family and Quentin Tarantino, that, you know, that could be a reason why we may not see this character in the game for a while. But for me, I said never, ever, you know, like ever.
Yeah.
But we should all know we should never say never.
Right.
Because then you look at Tekken, you see martial law, you see his son, you know, Forest Law. And like, okay, where's the problem here? No, Shannon Lee, she's sitting in front of a Tekken 3 machine. She's smiling, giving us thumbs up. This is a great representation of her father. I think it's a great representation of Jeet Kune Do. And I think that's the most important thing. So again, I'm grateful for the Lee family to call this bullshit out, because I couldn't have said it, because no one trusts me. No one, no one wants to talk to me except you guys and two other podcasters out there who knows me to a certain extent. But that's the thing. Just reading an article and think that everything is true. Now, VGM 247 and Nintendo Live, for me, it always comes off like, well, this journalist or reporter could be anybody. It could be just a teenager trying to try their shot at a exclusive working deal with them, or actually, as I see it, it's like the writing. And when I went to the next article, it's a copy and paste job.
That's exactly
and they
what
put
it
another
is.
guy's like, this is not journalism if you're not gonna change an article or like put yourself into it. It was just 2 clicks and boom, there's your article, and now it's spreading around the world. Misinformation is truly a weapon of mass hate, you know, or it can generate that mass hate for someone.
Oh, absolutely.
Well, I want to ask if you could say, and you can say anything on our platform, but if you could say anything to the guy that started this, the guy that released the first article, what would you like to say to him?
All right. So the thing is that I always believe the best teacher in life is the mistakes that we make. And if you want to become a reporter or journalist, yes, it's good to make mistakes early on, because you don't want to repeat that. Because I also have a feeling that if this is the first thing that you do and you blow up this entire lie of a story, we already see a problem that you're not going to get into journalist school. You're going to be more like a tabloid writer.
That's right.
And that's just bullshit and conjecture all the time. And if you really would like to give yourself a chance for redemption, you should have reached out to me. And you still can reach out to me and apologize. And actually, I want this person to apologize to Capcom. I want them to apologize to the Lee family. And then I want them to apologize to me. Even people said I should look for a defamation lawsuit. But I said, you know, I'm in Japan and these guys are in the United States. You know, there's no point. I've been working 30 years to reach to the point where I am today, and have it all ruined by a teenager who knows nothing about the real reporting.
Right.
Yeah.
And as you said, it's very important that for all parties to be involved, to hear their side of the story before you even publish it.
Yes.
And even contact the people, say, is it okay that we print this, you know, or ask for clarification. Those are very simple steps in this. We're also connected these days. I'm just one click away.
Yeah.
And this person did not do that.
No.
And that just, that's the biggest mistake.
Absolutely.
I felt that this person had done. So if this person still want to talk, I'm still up for it, you know. But it's been 2 weeks. They haven't reached out yet.
It's very, very shocking. Well, for myself, because I went through so many years of journalism. And one of the first modules you're taught your first semester is ethics in journalism. It's the first thing that you're taught. And sitting here watching this new generation come up, it seems as if they didn't learn ethics in journalism. And this has been a prime example for myself, for Pete, for our listeners, that journalists have a power to, well, they can destroy someone's life in one click, in one sentence. And because of that puts a responsibility on you as a reporter to do your due diligence. And it's so obvious when you read some of these articles, specifically this one from VGC 24/7, is there's just nothing. There's no research done. They don't reach out to you at all. They specifically say that they reach out to the Lee family. They specifically state that they reach out to Capcom. They do not reach out to you. And for me as a journalist, that is just, I don't know the logic. I cannot follow it. So this is just another series for our listeners out there, to always read things with a slight, I hate to say it, but a slight cynicism. What you're reading is not always the truth, and you need to do your own research, as the phrase goes.
Don't just read one article as well. Read a few,
yes,
and then form your own opinion based on that.
Yeah, because you can usually get some perspectives if you read some around it. Although I have to say, in Daniel's case, it has been a lot of copy paste.
It has been, in this instance, definitely so. But in this situation, the best thing to do is to reach out to someone and actually ask their side of the story, which was exactly what we did. So.
Novel idea.
It's the only right thing to do. I mean, it's so simple. And someone said, like, in this day and age, we're interlinked than ever, but communication is on an all-time low.
Right.
Which is a problem if you're a reporter and you don't interview all the parties involved and then make the connections and see where did we go wrong. And just missing that detail that I was just speculating. That is example 101. If there's a example in journalist school and using me as a example for quote mining, I'd be there.
Yes.
It's like, this is what could happen to a guy, who didn't really say anything wrong because he was not under contract. I was not under an NDA. This was my own time.
Yes.
His own channel, his own, would I set up a disclaimer every time I said I want to talk about Street Fighter 5, and before I make my speculation point, I need to say I'm making a speculation, boys. And splash it on the screen. It's just an overkill, and even a video that's so simple, like, I can just stream myself and broadcast to everybody in the world. Ask your questions and I'll answer them in the best way that I can. That's it, and it's such a simple way of communication, and yes, it takes one person to ruin it all. And even thought that was made after the video was done. They must have seen the 2 hours and 45, and then they found that snippet. And that's the thing, they linked the time code only to that sentence. They skip the question, they skip the lead up to that answer. And it was just terrible. But after 2 days, after I got all these these crazy fighting fanatics, I was like, after the first night, after writing that apology, and 1 day later, I could actually start sleeping because, I was thinking these are just teenagers that had nothing better to do. They want to stir up, as you said, clickbaity titles just for views. But that clickbait is so damaging for someone's been. But I think the only outcome now, as I see, is so far, I haven't heard anything from Capcom, which could be a good sign.
Okay. That was my next question, was how is that going?
So basically, there could be an official or temporary blacklisting of you. But then there are other conditions that I was not under, which would probably keep myself that, yeah, this was my own private time. I was having fun with my fans. I gave an answer. And you guys saw the entire thing. There's like, yeah, this is not a basis for someone getting blacklisted. But the quote mining surely is damaging, or the risk lives.
Yeah.
And that's what I said. But everything on my YouTube channel, I said, this is my responsibility. This is my opinions. Do not go after Capcom. Do not go after the Lee family. Capcom has been incredibly good for me. They have been very, very kind. For me to say these things wouldn't make any sense. Logic dictates that. Why would I say this? That would be, yes, the most silliest thing you could ever do. Because I have so many great friends working at Capcom.
Right.
And fantastic people. The music director I always found to be a very top guy. But yes, for his safety, I won't mention his name.
Of course,
And the Lead family, who I never talked to. So, like, I don't understand how they even came to that conclusion. I've been speaking to them. That's just silly to me.
I've wondered myself how they. Well, I still wonder how they came into your stream. That's the first wondering. The second wondering is how they gleaned from that entire stream this one little snippet, and then thought, haha, I'll go to the Lee family, when it's such a it's a speculation. People speculate about celebrities all the time. That is not that is not a special thing. So it's just very odd to me. It was almost targeted in a way, and I can't wrap my mind around it.
I had no idea it was going to go this way. No. And I'm not looking for virality, or I'm not looking for fame. I'm just working my ass off, doing what the client wants, and I'm leaving at that. Because a lot of the games that I do are team efforts, and I cannot state this enough. You don't go into a AAA game expecting to do what you want to do. No, there's a game plan here. We have choices for instruments, like Resident Evil 6. It was like a whole breakdown of these 4 different campaigns, and each campaign will sound different because we want 4 games in one, So they're setting the game plan and all the instruments up, and those are the parameters we have to work from. And now Street Fighter 6, every character has their own story, their own quirks, and the reason why they sound like this, It's a collaborative effort, and I always value that very high. And even I know that people at Capcom, they've heard my work. My name is in the game. They know I'm very flexible. The people I work with know I'm a very reliable guy. So when they want something changed, I'll change it. And I think in general, my work ethic speaks more than these misquoted words, like out of context. But it's unfortunate that they just took that and ran with it. And then people call it that's truth when it was not even facts. And that's where the shoe doesn't fit on anything. And I'm glad that you guys already seen the full video, and this is nothing.
It's very much nothing. Have you had any? Has anyone in the business, in your community, have they reached out to you, or do you get the feeling that there is this kind of hesitation, or does it seem okay for you?
I've got a lot of sympathies from people who are musicians and composers themselves, and even people who are fighting game fans actually made a fun meme. This guy called Yunda here in Japan, he's an American fighter, and he said, "Oh, yes, heard from the chef here at Capcom that T-Hawk will not be in the next game." Like, I was like, okay, you're on my team now, right? He knows how ridiculous all this is. So there is a certain kind of understanding, and I wrote to him and said, "Thank you so much for finally understanding this ridiculousness, because it's just way out of bounds. it's not even newsworthy.
It's not.
But
It's really not.
he hasn't replied to me yet because I know he's a very busy guy.
Yeah.
But I just reached out and say thank you very much. You know,
Yeah.
that made me laugh. That made my day much more fun.
That's very good.
But yeah. So yeah, I mean that's the thing. I'm not looking for fame, and have this all happen. Yeah, I mean that's the thing. There could be a good outcome and a bad outcome.
If you believe in karma, and I know some people out there do and some don't, but you know, maybe this will come back around and you'll be even better for it. More exposure in the good way, type of thing, you know, and more opportunities. Which is how I see it, because it really makes no sense if you really look into this. There is nothing there. But Pete, as we kind of wind down our wonderful interview, this has been so fabulous. Do you have questions you want to put forth?
I have no questions really. I think everything's covered in like massive detail actually, and it's been quite.
Pete's like, I'm getting tired. I'm sleepy.
I mean, it's late to be fair, but yeah, I think everything got covered. So we'd be going over the same ground really if I asked any more questions. So, if you wanted to, of course, do you want to plug your stuff, like YouTube channel and your music and that? So
yeah, I mean, please follow me on Twitter at dropkickmonk3y. And of course, Dropkick Monkey. The reason I'm having that is monkey is my Chinese birth year. So.
Oh right, okay. I saw that.
And I love Dropkick, so that's why I combination that.
I was like Dropkick Murphys, obviously that's my the first thing I thought of, and then it was Dropkick Monkeys, and I was like, oh.
And the reverse 3 there is so funny. That's what a monkey would have done, right?
Right.
So, and of course my YouTube channel. You probably will link it somewhere down there. I don't remember if it's a vanity link or not. But I'm also glad that you actually got to speak to the person that is me, and like what you see is what you get, and I know when I was younger, you know, I'm actually a very isolated person. I didn't have many friends in Sweden, and coming to Japan, the isolation kind of helped me get into the society. So to be an outsider here, it's tough, but if you get used to it, you know, I don't have the ability to get angry. It takes a lot to tick me off. Right. But when something out of nowhere, left field from a person I don't know, reaching out or asking me stuff, you know, that is kind of disappointing.
Sure.
But I know this is going to come and bite them in the ass in the end, and we already see everything is starting to turn. But the more ways we can get this message out there to aspiring journalists, I would say, please learn from these people here on this podcast, because this is how it should have been done from the.
This is what journalism should be like it was years ago. You know, it used to be about ethics. It used to be about citing your sources and reaching out for comments, but it's not that anymore. It's about shock and awe and clicks, and it's a horrible state of affairs. And we can only obviously say, like, it's a terrible state of affairs that obviously happened to yourself, because you seem like a really just genuine kind of dude, and it's just really unfortunate.
That's why I'm glad that we were able to do this, because it allows our listeners and listeners out there that are not normally our listeners to listen and then eventually see, because we are going to put this on YouTube, for themselves. Daniel is just a guy. He's not, there's nothing there. There's no like maliciousness. There's no, I'm going to prey on the Lee family or something like that. Not at all. It's just, you know, he was working and doing his job and connecting with fans, and it was just an offhand comment that literally would not have registered on my radar at all. But I do want to ask Daniel, before we do close out, do you have any advice or words out there for aspiring musicians coming up in this kind of new world and type of thing?
I mean, everything has become like great sample libraries come with great responsibilities. Well, I'm not going to quote Spider-Man here. I mean, if you want to work in the AAA game industry, be flexible and remember that the work you're doing is not for yourself. You're doing it to complete a product, and to make sure that it all has some sort of cohesiveness with the vision of the director, the idea behind why they chose this, and you try to comply. So this is not a me versus them kind of thing. But that's another thing. I'm actually starting to step away from AAA games because I start to find the indie scene to be more compelling because there's more creative freedom there.
We had some devs on last week who just said almost identically what you've just said now. They stepped away from their AAA jobs and formed this company because of the creative outlet. It's very interesting to hear that.
Yeah, they were very cool people, actually. They created a game called Space Boat, if you were interested in having a look at that.
There's for our listeners.
So, yeah, I mean, I found that to be like really indie game development is a great way to start off first. I just started with AAA games. How the hell did that happen, you know? I was just super lucky to have my music heard by the right people at a game competition, and then they said, hey, you got lots of great stuff here, but we still think the client is crazy enough to pick you out of this stuff, so let's create something new within this company. So I started one of the first production houses in Tokyo as a foreigner. So that's how it all started for me. And then AAA game, that's one for Sweden. No games, nothing. No one believed in. I wanted to start a game company in Sweden, but no one believed in the idea that software would be big. And suddenly 2 years later, I've left Sweden. They started up the game university who created the goat simulator, you know. Those guys are from our hometown. I was like, hey, look at that.
That's my highest rated Let's Play that I posted. It's my goat simulator. So.
And it also made it onto our Game of the Decade list.
Yes, it did. Isn't it? So yay, Swedish game developers. Yes.
So I was like, damn, why didn't I stay? And I thought, hey, it's too late. Now I'm here in Japan, but whenever I go back to my hometown, I would like to try to visit Coffee Stain Studios if they're there. But there seem to be very busy people.
Yes. Well,
so yeah, I mean,
I don't think that their music is they might need a little help in the music department, I will say. If you've ever heard the Goat Simulator soundtrack, it's just beep 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 beep.
Boom, Michael Bay.
Yes. This has been an absolute delight, Daniel. I mean, we didn't think that you were going to be some terrible ogre anyway, but this has proven that, what Pete and I suspected already is that it just a normal guy doing a normal job, connecting with his friends. Offhand comment that no one of normal capacity would have heard and ever registered. It would have just went no. So we do appreciate you being here very much, and also allowing our listeners and watchers to kind of get a window into your world and your point of view of this. No, I'm going to call it a non-story. I mean, we've kind of made it a story, but it's a non-story. It is there's just nothing there, and I cannot believe that they've, went after it this hard.
They took a microscopical feather and turned it into a galactic chicken.
Yes, there you go. Absolutely. Oh, that's perfect.
If there's anything to take away from this situation, just remember, not all journalists are bad.
Oh, you see, that's what, that's Pete and my goal. Like I said, we've had controversial journalists on before that kind of fight against the status quo, and we've gotten some flack for that, but we also stand by that. We may not always support what they say, but they should be allowed to, speak their truth as long as it's followed up by due diligence and research, which is a stance that we do take very strongly. But Pete, so I don't keep boring our wonderful audience, do you have any closing thoughts and where they can find you out there in the internet world, interlands?
Closing thoughts are, this is such a non-story. This is nothing, like, it shouldn't have even got anywhere close to this point, but I will say it's been a great opportunity to obviously talk to you, and bearing in mind that I'm a huge fan of Capcom games and Street Fighter specifically, it's an honor to actually speak to someone who's worked on that game So thank you very much for obviously dedicating your time for with us to be able to discuss this. So I'll be forever thankful. So thank you.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you want to follow me on Twitter, it's at PeteBeckett1, which is spelled BECKETT and the number 1. Kylie, what about yourself?
I'm going to reiterate also what Pete has said, which is this has been just fabulous. I know how much Pete loves, all of Capcom games. So I knew this was going to be one of his highlights of his career. Yes, it is.
Thank you.
And it's been absolutely a delight and very wonderful having Daniel on. But yes, if you're out there and you want to follow me, I do not talk a lot about games on my Twitter because I talk so much on here about it. But I am at Kiley Tegreet, which is KILEYTEHGREET. On Twitter, and that's mostly where I hang out, although you can find me doing some Let's Plays on the Twitch channel of twitch.tv/Rapid Reviews. Hopefully, we've got a demo coming up this week. This week is flying by. It's already Thursday, isn't it?
Oh, I know it is, yeah.
Oh my gosh.
It's Friday.
That's right, it is Friday, actually.
It's finally in Friday.
It's Friday, technically here now as well. But I want to thank our audience, both our listeners and our watchers. You guys are amazing. I hope you've enjoyed this as much as we have. I know you have. And remember to keep an open mind. Don't always believe everything you read. And I think that's going to wrap this up for us this week. So we will see you and talk to you next week. Bye.
Bye.
Hey there, it's Pete here doing the editing work on this episode. Wanted to keep you informed that we had reached out to Connor Makar, the article writer from VG247, who wrote the original piece regarding Daniel. Unfortunately, we didn't hear anything back from them in regards to a comment about the episode or any of the comments that were made by Daniel on this episode, which I sort of expected would happen, but we still tried, so let it be known that there are people out there that still believe in journalism and ethics in journalism, so we tried our best, and that's all we can do. Anyway, we hope that you enjoyed the episode. Thanks for listening. Please check us out on SoundCloud, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Please follow us on social media at Rapid Reviews UK, or the podcast-specific Twitter at RRRadioPod. Please follow us on Twitch at Rapid Reviews. The music is made by Johnny Atma. Please check out Gametal on YouTube. And for everything else, please visit www.rapidreviewsuk for all the latest reviews.